Good evening, everyone. It is Monday. We are back after the big 4th of July weekend, and it is time for Monday Night Live Chat. And I've got Dean Carlson with me this evening. Good evening, Dean.
Hi. How are you doing tonight, John?
Doing well. And now, for those who are from Minnesota, you realize that we've got a lot of heavy weather traveling through central Minnesota, headed Dean's direction right now tonight. So if for some reason, while we're doing the show, we lose something, it's probably because one or both of us are blowing away, because there have been numerous tornado warnings and funnel clouds on the ground, tornadoes in action. So
I keep hearing build an ark,
it's been that kind of day. We've had over 3 inches.
It's been raining nonstop all day. So
if you guys are watching on Facebook Live, thank you for watching. Most of the chat and things we're going to try to follow that on the YouTube video player, which should be in the description of the video, the live video. I want to make sure. Yes, it is. So just pop up there for the first one that we are doing the Dean Carlson session first tonight. We've got a few people, Ian in the room, Big D's in the room. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about weddings and making that wedding special. Now, Dean, one of the things, when you and I are meeting with brides, they want it to be a special night. They want it to be a special event that's kind of for them. When she comes up to you and basically says, "Hey, Dean, I want you to make my night special." Give us some thoughts and ideas and tips to help us fulfill that request.
Well, the first thing I always like to say is that nothing is technically impossible. So I always go into a situation like this with the idea that, yes, I can. And I'll say yes long before I know how to do it sometimes. That is the truth. I have done a few events where I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? And, I pulled that off. But the big thing for me is that it's all in the prep work that you're doing with the bride and groom to begin with. From the second that you're meeting with them to that first planning meeting, 2 months out, maybe even longer than that for some clients overall. That's when the magic really, really starts. And so that's some of the stuff that I would like to talk a little bit about today is, those questions that I ask potential clients that open up the possibility of spectacular ideas in general. So, yeah.
Let's dig into it.
All right. So like I said, I love to get into talking with brides and grooms. In fact, about 3 weeks ago, I had a friend of mine do a sit down with me while I was doing, one of these interviews with a bride and groom. They'd already booked me, and we were, 3 months out from their event, and we were just talking possibilities. Now, at the end of the meeting, it was funny because Jim said to me, he goes, "Gosh, I can't believe you spent over half hour just talking about nothing." And that's, you could go back to Seinfeld references all you want, but I turned to him and I started pointing out some of the things that I got from nothing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the questions that I was asking, they're very pointed so that I know some of the things that I'm looking for, so that later I can suggest ideas to the bride and groom and say, "Hey, this is some of the things that you talked about earlier. This is what I heard. Have you thought about this?"
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start talking possibilities, sooner or later you're going to hit upon something that the bride and groom would like to do. And since I deal with a lot of referral business, a lot of repeat family business and stuff like that, that door is open a little bit easier for me in some cases. But we've probably all heard Bill talk about the question why.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that question, gosh, probably 15 years ago at a seminar I was at.
Can you give us a 15-second overview of the why question for those who have not heard Bill talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So every time that you're asking, a bride and groom a question, or anybody actually for any event, you always want to, follow up with why, whether it's in your head or it's actually, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we want to do that? The easiest example is this, you get a do not playlist song. You know what I mean? The question should be why. You'll find out a lot of times it's not that they actually don't want it at their events. It's that, that song is just one of those songs. But if enough guests come up, they're okay with it, unless it's like, the song from the X, and that's a whole different story altogether. But asking why and keep going deeper and deeper and deeper with that, really unveils a lot of things for your brides and grooms. So,
And I think that's one of the biggest dangers that we have within this industry and others also, is that making the assumption, basically seeing something and reading too much into it instead of us guessing. Ask that question. Well,
absolutely.
why don't? Is there a reason for that song why you don't want it? Oh yes, it's because I've hated it since I was 5 years old. Okay, now I know. Well, why didn't you want it? Well, it's that song that has that part about where they sing about this, and it's like, well, no, that's this song over here. That's not that song. Oh, well, then I don't want that song on my list, and I want that.
Right.
Exactly.
But, and you continue that on in this process of, the questions that you ask your bride and groom to find those gems that you're looking for.
For sure.
Whether it be like, what do you do for a living? Oh, well, I'm a nurse. So why are you a nurse? Well, I've always loved nursing and I care for people. Really, you care for people. When did that start? See, that's another form of the question why, that you're digging deeper. You're going back into the memory with them to, that emotion that created that spot where they started thinking about doing that thing. And that's where you get the gems.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely 100% of the way. And like I said, Jim was shocked that I came back to him and I had all these ideas based on what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's a training thing. You know what I mean? It isn't something that you're going to do the first time when you think about that. When you sit down and you go, why? Okay. And she says, I like volleyball. Well, your mind might not go, how can I use volleyball?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually it will. Eventually you'll get to the point where everything is a possibility. And I'll talk about a couple ideas here in a second where that panned out really, really well and where it panned out really, really poorly. Because when you're willing to take risks, sometimes it works and sometimes, well, it doesn't. So, yeah. So the first thing, I had another conversation with some DJs recently. I'm friends with most of the DJ companies in our area, mm-hmm. and I was down in one of their offices last week, and I was talking to two of their newer DJs, and the conversation came up to how do you personalize an event? And, they're a large multi-op company. I love large multi-ops. I started with a large multi-op. I believe in that totally. And that question came up. And then I started talking about dinner kissing, and this is the easiest spot for you to personalize in any event. Yep. It should be the first point where you think, okay, how do I get outside the box? Here, okay? And so I was going and I asked them, so what do you do for dinner kissing? And there was one that did this thing with flipping coins, and I didn't really get that. It didn't seem super visual to me. It seemed really closed. It wasn't, when you're on stage, people have to be able to see things, in order for it to excel, right?
Right.
Another one had this idea with corks that I have used before, of course, where you have multiple color corks in a bucket, and when they tink the glass, somebody pulls out the corks. If it's one color, well, the bride and groom kiss. If it's another color, then that table kisses, and if it's another color, the whole room kisses, mm-hmm. which is a great idea, but not necessarily personalized unless, say, they love wine. Yep. Okay, if they love wine, that's a perfect thing for you to use for that event. I actually took the cork idea, which I used probably 15 years ago, and I made it one step better. I gave it the old Randy Bartlett 1% shifting in it, and I started using Hershey Kisses instead of corks because mm-hmm. Kisses, we're doing kissing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Hershey Kisses? It's chocolate, and it's easy to see, and they make them in all different colors. So instead of corks, which are a little bit tougher to change colors and stuff, you got these Hershey Kisses which you hand out afterwards. So when the glasses get tinged, they reach into a bucket, the person who started it, and voila, you got some kissing going on. Again, not super personalized, but that's a fallback mm-hmm. if I don't hit other ideas. So,
Dean, let's put a pause in this quick. We got a couple of ad spots, and then you've talked about some of the things they do, and then we'll come back and we'll build on that just a little bit. We've got a few sponsors for our summer 2016 DJ and TV shows. If you get a chance, go down into the area down below. We've got the links for them. You can check them out there. And we want to go here first. Now we're going to go.
Top Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
We are back. Those were the sponsors for our summer 2016 shows. Please show them some love if you're looking for some lighting or speakers or music. Check them out. Say that you saw them with us. We'd really appreciate it. Before our break, Dean, we were talking about some kissing activities, and you had a couple, and you've got a few more now you can share with us tonight.
Yeah, I covered a few of the basic ideas. You know, these are the fallback ideas if, say, you know, the other ones don't pan out. I've probably pretty rarely done tinking in the last 3 or 4 years, maybe once or twice, but pretty rarely overall. And a lot of it comes from building up this repertoire of other great ideas that you can do during the event. So, you know, things that you look for when you're asking questions are things that you can play off. Venue location, okay? I don't know about where a lot of our viewers are viewing from, but there's a lot of barns up here that do wedding events. You know what works really great for weddings and barns is getting a bale of hay, cow head that they make with the steer horns, a lasso, and then people lasso the steer head in order to get the bride and groom to kiss. Mm-hmm. That about 3 times now, and it works really, really well because it ties into the theme of the wedding. So now you're taking something that's, you know, we could have done tinking, but now let's do this, and it's worked out super, super well.
Oh yeah, for sure, good idea.
I saw somebody put up there that they like the spin the wheel option. I've done that. Mm-hmm. If you do video, there's actually a video wheel out there, and I didn't write down the URL for it, but you can find it out there where you can add different things to it, and if it hits it, it will actually remove it. So it's a video option. So if you have those, you know, TVs and stuff like that, that works really, really well.
And if that's the one that's we found it through youth ministry, that's where
that's the one.
That's the one. It's fairly inexpensive. I think it's like $15 or something.
Right.
But it's a really good quality piece of software. I'm really surprised. You'd have to go search for it. I don't remember what the name of. I could actually find it. I think in the house. I've got it.
Well, we'll put it on the Facebook page sometime before tomorrow. I'll get you that information.
Yeah, we'll find that one.
I did a wedding where they were really into fishing, so we literally put a pond inside of the hall. Instead of water in there, we had paper fish with paper clips on them and fishing poles with magnets on it. So you would fish for one of the fish in there, and then it would come out with a trivia question for the bride and groom. Oh. So it was a unique way to bring, you know, some fun action to that. Now, a game like that, you have to be real careful of how many kids you have in an event, you know, because they'll go crazy for that sort of thing.
They keep going, and I don't know this answer. Throw it. Another one.
I had a bride and groom last summer before, and he was from Africa, and he had got a scholarship for soccer here in the United States at the college. In fact, that's how they met. They both loved soccer, so we literally got a soccer net and a Nerf ball, and had people shooting goals at an event. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
Done it with basketballs. Done it the putting green. Those
big D's.
are all pretty cool things. But one of my favorite ones that happened about 1 year ago now. And so the groom, he proposed to the bride. This is how the conversation started. They were out playing tennis. And he hit one ball out over, and it said, Will. Next one, you. And she missed it the first time. She was like, totally like, she smacked the ball back at him. He was like, no. Hit it back to her, read it. So, my mind was like, okay, so what can we do about tennis? I mean, nothing at the event had tennis in it at all. So what we did is I bought 50 tennis balls, not the cheapest kissing game I've ever done, by the way. Tennis balls are kind of expensive.
Yeah, they are.
We bought Sharpie pens, and we put a tennis ball on every single table with a Sharpie, and had the table come up with an idea that they would do in order to get the bride and groom to kiss. I literally had a guy eat a tennis ball at this event because that's what it said. When we drew the tennis ball out, he just ripped it apart with his mouth. We had a Chinese fire drill. We had all sorts of fun stuff that happened because, now we got the guests involved, and they loved it. And the real cool thing about it, and I didn't know this was going to happen, but the groom had made the tennis balls that he said, "Will you marry me?" into a shadow box, and it was actually at the event. So
nice.
That really super well, translated into, it really enhanced the night overall. I got 3 weddings out of that one. So the $50 for advertising, I think, was pretty cheap overall.
For sure. Oh, good job.
Absolutely. So that was one of the funner ones. My biggest failure this last year was cribbage. That one didn't work out so well. They were huge cribbage fans, and I thought, okay, we're going to do something with cards and cribbage, and if you can use words from the cribbage game in a sentence about the bride and groom, they'll kiss. And love, peg, hole, stink hole, hopefully not. Mm-hmm. But that one failed miserably. I will not even hesitate to say that was not my best plan ever. But,
bride and groom are the only ones who knew the terminology. The rest were like,
yeah.
No.
We're like, oh my gosh, man. So that was a lot of fun, but not for anybody but me. That's a hidden shame. We had Car Hagerman spoke at an event that you put on down in Bloomington. Gosh, how long ago was that, John?
Oh boy, we've had Car probably 2008, 8 or 7, 8, 9 was the last time I think we had Car.
Car is great, but he was a co-author of a book called Great Top Performer. And if you guys don't have his book, Top Performer, you should get it. It's like $12 on Amazon or something like that. It's really cheap. And, he talks about this thing called mining the mess. And, it's really what street performers do is that they go out and they dump out this purse, and they look for things that they can play with. Mm-hmm. And that is the mindset that we need to have when we come into a wedding and planning and trying to come up with something extraordinary for people. The tennis balls, has anybody seen that at a wedding before? No, probably not, but it worked out super, super well. And I'm always looking for that, always.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that tennis ball idea. It definitely gives it a different feel, and you could tie that in so well.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. So one of the other areas is going to move into a little bit that's another spot that you can create spectacular out of. Yeah. Is Grand March entrances.
Oh, yeah.
So, the first thing I look at is dinner kissing because it's easy. And, it's that conversation that really gets the ball rolling for the client and allows you to open the door for other things. Most people would say that there's, one kind of grand march. Hey, it's Bob and Mary.
Yep.
I mean, and those are fun. I've probably done one of those in the last few years, but I classify it into three different grand march options total. There's the basic grand march, which I just described.
Yep.
There's enhanced intros, which is something that I saw Peter Mary do in some of the videos that he's done.
What kind of intros? I'm sorry,
Sorry, they're called, and I call them enhanced intros.
Enhanced, okay. Yep.
And I'll come back to that in just a second, go a little deeper in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is themed entrances, okay? So I always want to do themed entrances, always. Yeah. I get to do them about twice a year, not very often. But I do enhanced intros all the time. And enhanced intros are this: if you haven't seen Peter Mary's stuff, and that he has out there, it's where we get to know the bride, the wedding party, a little bit better. So we take some fun stories about them, or sound effects, or they all have personalized music, and it can be a lot of fun overall. Yeah, it takes a little work to write them down, and then to actually make it entertaining, because these things can fall real flat if you're not super careful with it. Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend that people take some comedy classes and some comedy writing classes. Those really help. They don't all have to be funny, but it sure helps if there's some entertaining moments in each of them. If you can tug the heartstrings and the laughter bone all at the same time, you've really succeeded in enhanced intros.
For sure. I think one of the big thing that with those enhanced introductions is that sometimes we'll let the couple write up what they want said.
Right.
And then we don't do anything with it as far as, okay, thanks, we've got it. And then we just read what they have. And I don't know. That doesn't work, because how we deliver is 90% of the success. Something to that effect. What they give you for information is this much, but how you present that information and convey the message is so much more. And that's what I think sets apart a one DJ or entertainer from another when it comes to that.
And I think that we need to go back to asking the question why again. When you're dealing with these enhanced intros. So I've been doing love stories now since about 2005. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Barb, who works for me, she writes all of my love stories. So she has a different voice than I do. So when I have to go through that, we have to actually sit down and go through the love story so that I understand what her voice is.
I can see that.
For that story. Now, what she does is she'll get the written answers in, from each side of the love story. The groom sends his side in, the bride sends her side in, and then she'll call them and ask them deeper questions. I think the same thing has to apply when you're starting to work with enhanced intros, because, it's been my experience that about 90% of the information they give you is just funny to them, not to their guests. And if it's just a private joke, it's not going to work so well as if you can take that and make it fun. Like the example I give is Bob and Steve, they're up camping and he flips his canoe in the boundary waters a whole bunch of times. Big camping area in Minnesota for those of you who don't live here. But we turned that into Bob's Master Canoe Captain. He's known for taking canoes, running them into riverbanks and sinking them. And then we played the deliverance music. And, that took something bland and turned it into something a lot better overall. So look for that sort of stuff when you're doing enhanced intros. Mm-hmm. Sure. Themed entrances are my favorite. Oh my gosh, I love themed entrances. And when you get to the whys, this is where you find some of that stuff. Rarely will you have a bride and groom come to you and say, oh my gosh, I want to do a themed Grand March entrance. I want it to be big and sportsy and blah, 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 blah. You know what? Those ideas don't come from them. They come from us. Mm-hmm. And, the more stuff that you have in your arsenal, the better you are at this. So one of the funnest ones I did happened because the groom's phone rang in our initial consultation.
Okay.
Hadn't even got the deposit yet from him, and he had the Star Wars Cantina music on his phone. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you love Star Wars?" And I was like, "Do you know Ben?" No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, now that's which Ben? It's all messed up, man.
Yeah, but I was a big nerd. I saw Star Wars in the movie theaters in 1977 about 46 times. It was $1 to go. I know all the words, and we had this moment, right? And turned out his parents had nixed them from wearing costumes at the ceremony. I was like, oh, really? Did they say anything about the reception? That was my why,
Uh-huh.
And they said no. And I says, what if, we did something with that? I actually ended up having 3 assistants that night. There's a place in Duluth called Barker's Islands. It has no windows in it. Again, I knew the venue. Having no windows was important to this Grand March because I had to be able to kill the lights completely. So when we were going to start the Grand March, the lights went down, and then there across the screen, their love story marched up the screen, in a video presentation that I had set up. And then this room had 4 different entrances in it, and we had light haze in the room, and we had lasers in 2 of the corners of the room, and I had lighting all over the room. And then we started introducing each of the wedding party, and they were just coming from doors that people had no idea. And this big epic, battle ensued. Then the bride came in and killed their entire wedding party. It was so cool. In fact, I ran into that bride last year as I was getting ready to do a friend of hers wedding, and they still talk about it. That was 7 years ago.
Wow.
It was before the new Star Wars movie came out. So, that came from the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was the idea there. Other things that I look for are dates, places. Like I did another one, 4 years ago that their wedding fell on the night before the Academy Awards. And again, nothing to do with what they were doing or the venue. And I said, have you ever thought about this? Not that we have to do this, but what it turns out, we rented a red carpet. We got the red velvet ropes. They bought about 100 of those little snappy cameras with flashes. And instead of introducing each of the wedding party, we interviewed them like they were on the red carpet.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Bob, how you doing tonight? You're up for this award, because we created awards for all of them. And then we had an awards ceremony later on after dinner where the entire wedding party, took home a gift basket and an award. And that all happened just because of date,
Yeah.
That worked out really, really well. So those were some fun things that we were able to do, based on that. But that's why I would love to do more themed entrances, but, the right people have to come along for that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Dean, we got about a minute left here, and then we got to wrap things up.
Okay.
If people would like to get a hold of you and ask questions, or if they wanted to talk about some ideas and such with making weddings special and unique and such, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can do it 2 ways. You can jump on my Facebook page, and you can probably find that from discjockeynews.com or John's page if you know his stuff. Otherwise, you can email me personally. I'm always open to that. It's Dean, DEAN, at nightmagicproductions.com. Pretty simple. You got to spell it all out, and it's not spelled weird or funky. Just do it the regular thing. Last thing I would say to people, if you want to have people in the palm of your hands, become an expert on the rest of the wedding. Once you do that, they're more than likely willing to go with you on anything you suggest. I
think what we should do for our next topic when we do it this fall is that concept of becoming an expert. And for those of you wondering, it will be October 24th. I think is when didn't we set that up for that night?
Yeah, October 24th.
October 24th, the week before Halloween. We will talk about that. But yeah, the concept of becoming an expert, I wanted you to talk about that because that's really led to some cool things from what you talked about. Dean, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Gang, we're going to have to jump and not do the Q&A because Arnaldo's up next. So everyone will be go to video number 2, and we'll be with you in about 3 minutes. Once again, Dean, thank you much for being with tonight.
Thanks, John.
All right. Catch you guys later.